Good evening, everybody. I want to welcome you to Stavvy HQ, affectionately known as Stavvy HQ, Stavvy headquarters. I'm Costa Ligris. I am the founder and CEO of Stavvy. We're a Boston-based fintech, as you can tell, and excited to host you guys this evening and hear from some of our speakers. Really excited to host this group here. It's been an interesting week. We've had a lot of visitors. We had the University of Piras here yesterday, and so we love having a downtown Boston location because we can actually host events like this as well. So we've displaced our engineering team that has their game night on Thursdays to the other side. So if you might see some of the Stavvyators walking around, that's what we call ourselves. So people sometimes say, like, what is a Stavvy? So I'm happy to share a little bit about what Stavvy is and also where the name came from. And then we'll kick off this evening's event. So my background, I've been in real estate and financial services most of my life. I studied law here in Boston, grew up in the Newton area, and built and scaled along with my business partners who are in attendance this evening, large-scale transactional real estate law firm and title companies, doing real estate transactions for about 17 years. At which point I took a path to MIT to think differently and approach sort of what innovation could potentially mean for financial services and real estate transactions. So Stavvy is essentially a platform, a SaaS platform that sells software to financial institutions, banks, and non-bank lenders to facilitate transactions that have traditionally been done on purpose, in pen and paper and in person online. And so if you think DocuSign sort of on steroids, that's what Stavvy does. We provide solutions with cryptographic electronic signatures, secure meeting rooms to be able to meet with people online, remote notarization, which is now allowed in 45 states, plus Guam, plus the District of Columbia. As a matter of fact, on Tuesday this week, Stavvy is powering the first ever digital transaction in Guam, which we're excited about. And some other things we're excited about is we were the first company to ever do a digital loan modification in the US last year, helping homeowners through the pandemic stay in their homes without having to go out and find notaries in person. But what we're most proud of is our people. We have an incredible culture. We started as 6 people pre-pandemic. We're 156 people as of today. As a matter of fact, 120 something will be here Saturday for our holiday party. And what we're really proud of is really the culture that we've built here, a culture of collaboration and compassion where we build really cool technology, but at the same time really work well together and contribute to the Boston ecosystem. Last year, we were ranked number 8 for Best Startup Employer by Forbes. In the US, we've won Bostino's Award for Startups to Watch. Some of our incredible female leaders, my COO, who's sitting over there in the corner, Amy Hochthausen, won Housing Wire's Insider or Influencer. And Women of Influence in Mortgage and Housing, our deputy counsel our general counsel, who's the former deputy general counsel from Fannie Mae. So it's really a collaboration, some really incredible subject matter experts that have come together to really reimagine how mortgage transactions and real estate finance can move forward in the digital age. So with that, I believe I'm handing this off to Michalis Bletsas. Oh, sorry, to Marina Hadzopoulos. All right, floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Costa. Thank you so much for hosting us in this gorgeous space. So Hellenic Innovation Network was born about 5 years ago or so. It's an outgrowth of MIT Enterprise Forum Greece. And our goal is to help build a bridge for startups coming out of Greece and expanding to the United States. And in particular, we try to forge strong connections here in Boston. So we host events twice a year in Boston. And George Demosthenes, who you will meet later in the evening, also runs a CEO group for CEOs to connect virtually. The point of tonight is to network. So for us all here in the Boston tech scene to connect with each other, and then for us to help connect with the startups coming out of Greece. And we think that that has tremendous value for startups that are looking for investors, board members, advisors, suppliers, customers, whatever. So the ask of you is tonight to register at hellenic.org. From there, you can look at our membership and see who else might be useful for you to connect in your network. Introduce yourself to the startups that will be pitching at the end of the event tonight, and offer to help in any way you can, any introductions you can make, any funding you want to provide to them, any mentoring or advice. That's really the point of this whole thing. So thank you for coming. And I believe Vasilis is next, correct? Vasily?
Good evening, everybody. Costa, thank you for hosting us. Thank you all for coming. I'm not going to sing, but yeah, just in case you're wondering, I'm going to spend the next few minutes tell you a few things about the Greek Technology Entrepreneurship Forum, which is the organization that brought the MIT Enterprise Forum to Greece in 2013. There have been a few things that have been happening over the past few years, especially through the MIT Enterprise Forum startup competition. We have accelerated more than 200 startups, and 70 of them keep growing. They've raised more than 200 million. Two of them you're going to meet later today, Yodivo and Mobito. They are part of the alumni, and they've done incredible in the years that they were not so obvious for Greek startups to grow and prosper. It has been a very interesting period for us. We've done a lot of things besides the competition, a lot of workshops, events, and we think we have significantly contributed to the growth of the Greek technology community. And it has been 10 years since we actually signed the agreement with MIT Technology Review that brought MIT Enterprise Forum to Greece. And we are now entering a new phase. Actually, yesterday we signed a new agreement with MIT, and the organization, the Greek Technology Entrepreneurship Forum, will be part of MIT JWEL, which is part of the MIT Open Learning. And we keep doing what we have been doing with a few additions. First, a new brand that will come out later, expanding geographical focus. Will not be focusing on in Greece. We will focus in the southeastern European region. And thanks to the resources that MIT Open Learning has, we will bring more to the community, not just only to the entrepreneurs, but to other stakeholders. Thanks to the results MIT Enterprise Forum has delivered, we have another event coming up. We're proud to announce, and actually it's the first public announcement, that on March 30 and 31st, we will be hosting MIT Enterprise, MIT Global Startup Workshop, which is an MIT owned and operated two-day conference. It will come to Athens, and it will be, GSW has been running since 1998. It goes to a different city every year, and it's the first and practically only opportunity for the MIT community to help the local communities to grow and learn from their experience. So during this two-day workshop, two-day event, we will have several keynote speakers, important names from the tech community, many people from the Greek tech ecosystem attending, and hopefully we will attract more people from the region, because we started trying to make Greece a tech hub. I think it's time to bring more people from outside Greece, not only Greek expats like you, but other people from the region to join. So GSW is a unique opportunity, I think, for Greece to solidify its position as an emerging tech hub, which now seems very obvious. It was not so obvious 10 years ago. People were laughing at us when we were discussing about that. And I think it's a great thing for all of us to get involved in Hellenic Innovation Network is part of that. A lot of things have happened thanks to Marina's leadership, not only with Hellenic, but also the things that she has been doing in Athens since 2014. Can I tell them about the kite surfing thing? Yeah, we're planning also entrepreneurs and investors kite surfing event in Paros. So I don't know how many of you kite surf or windsurf, but if you have time to learn. So yeah, so if you want to learn more about what we are planning, we can discuss about afterwards, and I would be happy to share more. So I think I gave you a good overview of what we're doing, and it's time to move to our next speaker, Simeon Tegos, our Consul General of Greece in Boston. Simeon joined here in Boston last August. He's a career diplomat with a lot of experience. He will tell you more about it, so I don't have to do the introduction.
No.
Thank you.
Vasily, thank you. They told me I have a minute, so I better use it wisely. Before I start, I want to recognize, besides our great organizers and of course our great host, the Ligris brother, my friends there, But I want to recognize, first of all, Mayor Papasteriou, directly from Greece, a groundbreaking personality, political personality in my country. And I mean that. Of course, with him, I have to recognize the Mayor of Lowell, the city of Kerouac, my youth there, and a very Greek city to our heart. Of course, I'm looking for from Mr. Colimon from the Boston city. I have to recognize him as well. Thank you. This is a very important event for us this evening because, as you know, Greece is making a big effort to catch up, to have smarter city as our urbanization is moving very fast. I guess this is a very European conversation as well, but I cannot think of a better place to rethink, revisit, rebrand the concepts than Boston. So congratulations to the Hellenic Innovation Network, Marina, Michali, and all these incredible people. I'm very proud to be part of that. It's a great evening. I will definitely enjoy this conversation. Thank you for coming. Take care. And this is Bletsas.
Hi, my name is Michalis Bletsas. I'm a research scientist and the director of computing at the MIT Media Lab. If you don't like our panel today, you can blame me. I put it together. If you like it, I'm sure you will. This is pretty much a family affair for me. First of all, my good friend, Mayor Dimitris Papasteriou of Trikala. He was the first mayor in Greece to actually have a city that many people are considered smart, not because he added technology there, but because he used technology very effectively, not only to solve people's problems, but to make people feel really proud about their city. And he was the first one who actually changed people's perception about how technology should be used in a city. Next to him, my colleague, Luis Alonso from the Media Lab, from the Smart Cities, from the City Science group at the Media Lab. He's going to talk a lot about, not too much, but he's going to tell you some really important things about how, what we consider to be a smart city, because people think that you just add some sensors and some computers and suddenly there is intelligence there. There is a lot more than that. And I think Luis is the best person to say that. He comes from Madrid, Spain originally. And last but not least, after the mayor, the technologist, the academic technologist, we have somebody who's solving real problems in cities using the latest in artificial intelligence technology to do predictive analytics and predictive maintenance in crucial networks for the city. George Demosthenes, originally from Larnaca, Cyprus. So with that introduction, please come up here, and Dimitri will start with you first. But the rest of you should come up with a panel.
So, good afternoon to all of you. Just want to state that Simos and Michalis are for sure overstating about me. But a few words about my city. So, when we start discussing about smart cities, first of all, I think that we have to identify some basic concepts. What is a smart city? Is it the same meaning for a smart city in the United States of America and the same for Greece? Or smart city in the mainland of Greece is the same with smart city or smart island in the Aegean Sea of Greece? And what really we mean when we listen about a smart city? What is certain is that from each one of the above cases, the concept of a smart city does not only have to do with technology. It does not mainly evolve technology. And what I was saying with Luis in the morning is that for sure it has to do mainly with people. Of course, technology must be there, but always technology must be the means and not the destination. So what exactly is a smart city? Is the solution where all the other conventional ways had failed? Is the need to change approach? It's the need to think disruptive. And it's always also, let's say, procedure about reverse engineering. aimed at solving the problems of our cities. And so, Marina, next slide, please. And why Trikala is a smart city, and why it was just the city, a humble small city in the center of Greece and not any other city? Because Trikala made a huge, let's say, opening to innovation back in 2004, when it was the first city where we established a free Wi-Fi broadband network. Some can say, but it is, let's say, innovative to have a wireless network. Yes, but in 2004, it was the first city, before Athens also, that started implementing with broadband connections. And because back in 2014, me, with my team, we took over the destiny of the city as a group of young people with, let's say, a different approach about the things, about politics, having also a good relation with technology. This is the main river of Trikala with some small boats, and it is the Litheos River. Litheos, I don't know exactly the word in English, but it is something to forget, and I'm going to tell you why. Let's go to the next slide. And since we're talking about my city, about Trikala, let's say a few words about the city. It is a medium-sized city in the heart of Greece with about 80,000 inhabitants. Many rivers, we have 3 rivers are crossing the city. It is the homeland of the greatest Greek musicians, Tsitsanis, Kaldaras, Virvos, Mitropanos, Samoladas, Margaritis. We were listening Margaritis with Michalis coming here. And also well known about the Tsias Feta, about Tsipuro, about Asclepios or Asculapius, the first doctor of the universe, the god of medicine, and of course, Vasilis Tsitsanis. Next slide, please. During the last 12 years, it's also well known from something very common, very relevant to this period. We organized the biggest Christmas event all over, not only Greece, but Balkans. It is the Meal of Films, fantastic Christmas event. We count and we host more than 1 million visitors per 40 years, or for 40 days. And it is also smart to think about local growth. Sorry, sometimes we have to come back to technology. Can somebody go forward by going backwards? The answer for us is yes, because we wanted to go from the end to start, from the problem to solutions, to identify the problems of our cities and try to find solutions with or without technology. Citizens, we saw that citizens were listening about technology, especially in the recent years when the conversation about smart cities has begun, but they couldn't see in their daily life a lot of technology in their real life. So let's go to next slide. The first thing we did was to present all the applications that were running in the city, but the citizens didn't know about them. This is how we created the municipal control center in the city hall, exactly the entrance of the city hall, making technology visible to everybody. There we can see a lot of screens with fleet management, GIS, water stewards, network management, parking management, were just only some of the applications that we were implementing in the city. And the most useful of them, a CRM program to manage, track, resolve citizens' claims, and monitor their satisfaction. But it is, let's say, smart to have just a CRM. For me, yes, because even such a very simple technology answers to a very crucial question. The question is if citizens are trust the local authorities. And yes, with this CRM, we saw that day by day, the citizens could see that technology was around them and could solve their daily problems. They have to feel that technology and the local authorities were thinking of them. Because the biggest, let's say, reply to question why smart city is the trust that have to build between the local authorities and the citizens. It is the way to make citizens feel that someone is listening to them, listen to their anxieties, to their problems, and tries to solve them. Especially in Europe, the last years, they recognize a lack of bottom-up policies and the lack of trust between local authorities and citizens. Thus, even such a simple technology helps to establish a better communication between the city's administration and the citizens. Let's go to next slide. At the same time, in 2016, our most popular project, the driverless buses project, was implemented. 6 buses for 6 months have been rolled out in the city center as a part of a European program for innovation. And these vehicles could see, the European Union had to see if those vehicles could be the future of urban transportation. In the meantime, the slow and not at all open to change the state decided to change era and obtained digital speeds. With the efforts of the leadership of the Ministry of Digital Affairs, the state decided to go digital and stop torturing the citizens who until then considered them almost as users. Yes, with a folder. Till today, more than 1,300 services are provided to citizens through the platform Voda.ai, and since then, we continue these efforts together with the central government and the municipalities. But let's get back to Trikala. What else are we doing today, and what are we planning to do next years? And so, please, Marina, to next slide. Yes, we love to test. We love to experiment, to gain experiences. So recently we tested drug delivery with drones as a part of another European research program. These days we are preparing to implement the second edition of autonomous buses on the streets. And those buses now are more smart, because they're commuting in mixed traffic and not only a dedicated bus lane. Next slides. This is the new cute robots we are testing in the center of the city, those small robots called Yape, and are already circulating. It's a very recent photo. That's why the Christmas tree of the city is back. Those small robots are trying to see if they can deliver products in pedestrian streets where no other vehicles are allowed to enter. At the same time, using sensors, we monitor the level of rivers, taking into consideration weather conditions and rainfall, trying to get diagnosis of possible floods and raise early warnings, protect our citizens. Of course, a smart city can't prevent everything in terms of resiliency, but a smart city should, however, have extended all possibilities in terms of planning and prevention. And if a crisis occurs, like an earthquake or a flood, to be able to react immediately and in order to heal the open woods. Next slide, Marina. Today we are at an extremely interesting point, since we are putting out the largest municipality IT project to a public tender, a 7 million euros project from the Ministry of Digital Government, funded from Resilient and Recovery Facility. Our main goal is to build integrated services and the platforms for the smart city management, the civil protection, something very crucial for Greece nowadays, the data handling and processing, the citizens' loyalty, engagement, and reward through our local currency, Trikala, the dialogue with citizens, the enhancement of participatory planning, the environment, circular economy, sustainability, and energy saving. On that last one, I would like to emphasize a little bit more. So let's go to next slide. The environment is something that we all should care about, and mainly our cities. The EU project of 100 climate neutral cities by 2030 is named as a mission and not just an initiative, exactly for that reason. Based on this experience, European Union will try to scale up the project, creating a climate neutral Europe by 2050. As Trikala is one of these 100 European cities, the responsibility we undertake is large. Firstly, we need to decrease consumption and accelerate energy transition. Then we need to produce clean energy, to recycle more, and to prevent from burning to landfill anything more than necessary, for sure less than 10% of today's quantities. And finally, something that we have to try harder, smart grids and energy storage. To achieve all the above, we must think differently, just like Kostas said. For example, it doesn't make any sense to use an electric car if the energy has not been produced by RES. Or we can also consider an electric car not just as a car, but also as a battery, and take the energy from the car during night, for example, in Greece, when photovoltaic plants are not producing energy. In a smart city, nothing should be taken as obvious anymore. The only obvious is that we have to change the way of thinking about how we live in our houses and how energy efficient are they, about how we commute in our cities. A key factor in a smart city is for sure sustainability, just like we're discussing in the morning. Sustainability using in a daily basis cars and fossil fuels is useless, is something like, let's say, heroes without tzatziki, just like Michalis would say. About how much we care, because a smart city is an inclusive city, a city that should not leave one behind, all should be included. A smart city is a city that everyone can enjoy, live it, and use it. And here comes the question regarding the factor of skills and whether citizens can follow these huge changes happening around them. I strongly believe that on a political level, we must try harder, because the anxiety of the leadership to run ahead, to predict situations, to catch milestones, sometimes doesn't look back. And there is sometimes a huge gap between the local authorities and the citizens, and even worse, this gap sometimes is filled with extreme voices and opinions. This is something that we must avoid. So we need to discuss more. A smart city has to use open dialogue platforms and social media to interact with the citizens, to persuade them that nobody is planning for them without them, and especially with young people under 20. That's why, go to my last slide, please, Marina. And how we get in touch with them with just 2 single words, TikTok. Trikala is the first Greek municipality with a TikTok official account, which helps us a lot to connect with youngsters, inform them about our projects and about our initiatives, and ask their opinion. Smart city is a city with senses, a city that listens, sees, feels, tastes, smells, thinks, predicts, intercares, and interacts and cares. Of course, if it does all the above through apps and mobiles, even better. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. We're going to move to the program. Okay, there we go, we're back. Where we're going to have a panel, and joining us are, okay, so George Demosthenis from Voda.ai and Luis Alonso from the MIT Media Lab. So since we heard from the mayor, I'd love to give you guys an opportunity for a quick intro.
Let's try this again. All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm George Demosthenis, CEO and co-founder at Voda.ai, a software company based in Boston, Massachusetts, and helping water utilities and municipalities assess the risk of water pipes that are underground. And I think I know which is my next qualified lead. And I'm looking at the mayor.
Hi, my name is Luis Alonso. I am research scientist at the City Science Group, and it's a pleasure to be here. I have I mean, as Michael said before, he promised me that I was gonna be talking a lot. So like 1 hour, no, but I have like a 10 minutes presentation. I don't know if I should jump on that, or do you wanna, yeah, is that okay? Okay, so since I have to plug the thing. Yeah, I pay for that. I wanna talk the book, no. So let me, I have to plug. And it's going to be a weird presentation because the cable is not that far, it's not that long. So, but it taps on what Dimitris was actually presenting, because I think you already have defined the entire concept of smart cities, and the most amazing thing is that you are actually testing in your own city, like most of the concepts. So I think you already have screwed my presentation. So that's why I have another presentation here that is about something else. You know, I'm going to talk about football. Spain. Can you see my mouse over there? I cannot see. Ah, yeah. Okay, it is here. Sorry about that. So yeah, so Spain lost the World Cup yesterday. So I am very sad. No, no. So. So the presentation is what we call, I don't know why it's okay. The presentation is hyper-local solutions about for global challenges, and it's tapping directly into the sustainable part of smart cities, okay? I think, again, you have made like a very good overview of exactly what is a smart city. So I want to jump into this number. 2.5. Do you know what is 2.5? No? Yeah, no, it's exactly. So is the yearly average carbon budget for every person on the planet through 2050 to have an 80% chance of limiting the global warming 2 degrees Celsius. Okay, so that's kind of one of the challenge. How can we establish priorities in order to get into these 2.5 tons of CO2? At the City Science Group, we have built a model, and it's a first iteration. Okay, so we are kind of starting to learn about this, but we have built a model about Kendall Square, that is the headquarters of MIT, in order to test different ideas to see how smart cities and different policies can impact into global warming by 2030. Okay, we cannot wait into 2050. You have your policies are focused on 2030, so we are as well. So we are aligned once again. I love that. So the first thing that we have done is we have research about the behavior, the human behavior of everybody living and working in Kendall Square. And we have measured the carbon footprint of each of us, because each of us, we have a different carbon footprint depending on how do you move, where do you live, or what do you eat. So with that, we have used life cycle assessment tools in order to understand our environmental impact, because there are 2 types of CO2. One is the operational CO2 and the embodied CO2, okay? The operational CO2 is the CO2 that you produce when you are using the car, when you are using the building with the lights, with air conditioning, and the embodied CO2 is the CO2 that you produce when you are building really the building or the car itself. So it's embedded there. And we have taken all that information in the Cityscope platform, that is a data-driven, evidence-based platform where we can have different scenarios. We have this Lego model, so people can play with Legos, and you can have unlikely partners around this. So everything what Dimitris was saying before about how can we engage the industry, the academia, and the government together in order to find solutions, we have built this model where you can explore what-if scenarios and different policies in order to understand the socio-economical and environmental indicators. And after doing all of that, we have learned that everybody living in and working in Kendall Square, we have an average carbon footprint, and I have to be in that bucket, of 17.19 tons of CO2 per year. That's kind of a lot. Probably in Greece, people has a different carbon footprint, a little bit smaller. So it could be fantastic to make this experiment with your city. So how can we reduce this bubble into 2.5 tons of CO2? That's the challenge that we have tonight. And we are exploring different ideas. Okay, it's what we call interventions. And we have used these interventions in the Cityscope. And the first interventions, they are the traditional ones, okay? Like decarbonize the grid, okay? I think this is a very popular measure. If we follow Massachusetts, they say that by 2030, they will decarbonize 40% of the electric grid. So 40% of electricity is gonna came from clean energy. That's fantastic, because then we can reduce the bubble. Let's reduce the bubble a little bit from, around 1.4 tons of CO2 per person. It's not bad. I think that's pretty cool. Everybody's talking about electric vehicles, and this is fantastic. So let's be generous. Let's think that by 2030, everybody living and working in Kendall Square, they are gonna be using an electric vehicle, okay? 100% of the fleet is gonna be electric. Wow, that's kind of radical. Okay, let's have that experiment. So what we do is we reduce the operational CO2, but we are increasing the embodied CO2 because you are bringing the batteries for the car and so on. So the final balance is not that huge. We are reducing only 0.3 tons of CO2 per person. It's not bad. It's a good beginning. I mean, I don't want to be like negative. I think there are measures that we have to keep implementing. Hybrid work. A lot of people are talking about hybrid work, and people are saying that people working from home is going to be the new tendency, and the cities are going to be like in this movie, Madrid, empty, you know, because nobody's going to be. I'm so sorry. I don't agree with that. If you look into the numbers, we are kind of back to normal, at least in the United States. The numbers are looking like more or less like in 2019, when people used to live and work like between 2 and 3 days per week at home. So let's take that number. What if everybody working in Kendall Square, they spend 3 days working from home? At the end of the day, we don't, well, we can reduce almost half of a ton of CO2 per person, because most of the energy that you are spending in the office is going to be spent in the house, but you are removing a lot of energy from the commute, okay? All the CO2 from the commute. Other important measure, deep building retrofitting. Imagine that you take every single building in Kendall Square, a lot of buildings, and we put policies of have more efficient air conditioning, more efficient lighting, a smart system, not to be more efficient in the building, and also we increase the thermal isolation. We reduce, of course, a lot of operational CO2, but because we are bringing all this stuff in the building, we are producing a lot of embodied CO2. So we are increasing the embodied CO2. Even with that, the impact is 1 ton of CO2 per person of reduction. That's quite good. So it's but this is kind of as far as we can go with some kind of traditional measures. So let's be creative. At the City Science Group, we have been exploring this idea of people living and working in a walkable distance. Is what we call the walkable cities. Ken Larson was a pioneer some time ago. With that, we have learned that these kind of walkable cities, they bring innovation. So we know that kind of measures, if you bring the policies and the technology in order to have people living and working at a walkable distance, you can have very impactful socioeconomic indicators. Let's see also like how that can impact into the environmental indicators. So the first thing is, the first policy that we look into is life-work symmetry. So what if everybody living in Kendall Square, also working in Kendall Square, also lives in Kendall Square? That means from the CEO of the biotech to the person cooking and cleaning, everybody is living in a walkable distance. Okay, it's kind of, let's explore. I mean, we are exploring. If we do that, then 4,000 commuters, they have to get kind of in a 20 minutes kind of walkable distance. We have modeled that in the Cityscope. Of course, you have to increase the density of Kendall Square. That is already happening. But the impact is huge. We can reduce 3.4 tons of CO2 per person. Okay, because we are, you have to keep into account that people are not only not commuting anymore, but they are not longer living in low efficient houses like family houses in the suburbs. They are also living in more efficient buildings in Kendall Square. So you have to make the entire balance. So that's exactly what you were saying. They are no longer easy solutions. You always have like a messy, complex kind of calculation. In order to have people living and working in Kendall Square, what you need also is to have walkable access. In the United States, people are actually consuming more energy by commuting and buying the bread and the milk and the groceries than going to work. And also we usually go into a huge mall that is very inefficient. When you have like the local kind of small shops in the street, they are much efficient in terms of energy. So we know that because we have been looking into replica and SafeGraph data. And also thanks to this data, we can understand what are the amenities that supports innovation. What are the amenities that you need to have in the neighborhood in order to have an innovative district? And this is kind of like the top 10. Looking into Kendall Square, 80% of the amenities doesn't exist in Kendall Square today. So we have to bring that amenities. Once again, we have been using the Cityscope platform, and by having more local kind of small shops and having walkable access to amenities, we can reduce 2.2 tons of CO2 per person. In order to have this, we need to bring technology that maybe doesn't have a huge environmental impact, but is needed to have diversity. So we need to have affordable housing for the young entrepreneurs, for the middle and low income people, if we want to have them living in Central Square. So we have Ori systems that it was like, this was the students in the group like 7 years ago saying, okay, what if we have this small 20 square meter apartment that can transform from a living room to a bedroom, from a bedroom to a kitchen, from a kitchen to a toilet, and so on. Of course, that. Yeah, in the kitchen. You will see it's in the door over there. Yeah, here is the toilet coming. You have everything here. So again, it was like a thought, like experiment that we have. See? But the idea, this is exactly in the Media Lab. So we had only 20 square meters, and the students, they were like kind of building this experiment. And Asier Larrea, that was one of the students, is this guy. Of course, he's from Spain, and he was making a party at the end. He started up this Exactly. TikTok, we are aligned again. So this is the company that Asier Larrea made. And today, Facebook and Google, they are investors in the company. And this is, I can live in this house. I think this is New York, and that's the apartment that they have built. Okay, if we bring this technology once again, it is needed to bring diversity to the neighborhood. So the impact is not huge, but at least is also helping us to have this walkable city. Another element, micromobility. Remember that in 2030, we already have everybody living and working in Kendall Square. We have walkable amenities. So a lot of the vehicles probably has been, nobody's using the vehicles anymore, but you still have the problem of the last mile, okay? The last mile, and you need to support the public transportation, the autonomous bus that we were seeing before, with some kind of micro-mobility. So at the City Science Group, we have developed a couple of, let's say, micro-mobility ecosystem of animals. This is the PEV, persuasive electric vehicle, that is made for elderly people and different people that they want to have, you know, like some kind of mobility. And when it's not moving people, it's moving goods. So you are solving the last mile of only, not only for delivery. Also, our students, they were like, yeah, but what about other kind of animals that they are less expensive, and maybe it's a bike that it can transform in a tricycle, and then it can rebalance the you know, the mobility system when you are not longer using the bike. Once again, the impact of these elements, because we are deploying ones that the city is already a walkable city, is small, is almost half of a ton, but is needed in order to support a walkable city. So what is left? Okay, let's help Massachusetts to decarbonize the grid. So what if we could imagine that a Spark, the MIT Fusion Lab, could have a Spark for 2030? It could be amazing if we could, you know, decarbonize all the operational energy and remove all the operational CO2. At this point, we could remove 1 ton of CO2 per person. Also, what else can we do in the city level? What if we have a low carbon diet and local food production? So back in 2030, we were already working in this concept of the city farm. What if we can grow, you know, food in a kind of in a local level? Today, there are a lot of companies that they are mass producing food in the city. And it's easy, but if we change our diet and we start producing local food, we can reduce 1.4 tons of CO2 per person. That's kind of very interesting. Food for thoughts, no? Okay, what is missing? Exactly. So this is the micro solutions, the local solutions that we can implement, but we are still far from the 2.5 tons of CO2. So the rest is in a different level. So the rest is air traveling. What if we decarbonize air traveling? What if we decarbonize internet, the data that we are using today? Actually, yeah, the data is a huge impact, but also what if we have local production of furniture, clothing, etc.? If we start working on that direction, probably we can get into 2.5 tons of CO2. But as you can see, it was looking kind of utopian measures, but we need to make a huge effort. And this is not, I mean, again, it's an experiment, it's something that we are still working on, and these are not the perfect measures. These are the ones that we are testing in the group. So it could be fantastic to listen to your ideas and say, hey, Luis, what if we try this other thing? What if we make other policies in the city? But I think the kids, they are asking us for this future because we have to get rid of the CO2. So thank you very much. See, I'm sorry because...
Thank you, Luis. I think when it comes to the low carbon diet in Greece, the chances of eliminating gyros is slim to none. So we'll have to look at maybe fusion power and some of those other things. So, so I'm curious. I'd love to hear from you guys in terms of how did this get started? How did you get started with Voda? How did the concept of the smart city in Trikala start? How did you land sort of, you know, where you are, and start with maybe the why?
Sure. Before I start, Costa, I would be interested to see if you add the reduction of water loss every year, which requires a lot of energy to be produced, how much that would impact your numbers. So maybe we can work on that.
This is something that we're testing now.
Yeah, great. Great. So why did we start Voda.ai? Well, by the time I finish answering this question, another pipe will fail in the United States alone. Every 2 minutes, there is a pipe that fails. It leaks or breaks and causes damage, and more importantly, causes so much water loss to a point where in Las Vegas, one of the places where we deployed our technology, they have a water police because they are almost out of water, given that the Lake Mead and Colorado River are not performing as well as they used to. So given that, we have developed technology that uses AI to identify how pipes failed in the past, create a profile, and then given that profile, assign a probability of failure score for every pipe segment in the system. That's why we started. And then most recently, what we have found is that the pipes that go from the street to the home, a lot of them are made out of lead material. Now, not a lot of people talk about this, but that's poison. It can harm people. It's a developmental issue for kids. And the federal government recently mandated that in the next 2 years, every utility in the United States, and these are water utilities and municipalities, 53,000 of them, have to inventory, not necessarily replace, but inventory which pipes have lead and which don't. This is another global problem, and it comes because in the past we didn't have enough knowledge, but also the infrastructure is aging. If you think about it, if a pipe has an average life of 80 years, these are the pipes underneath the ground, most utilities in the United States change their pipes with less than 1% each year, which gives you a replacement cycle of over 100 years. So it just doesn't work. You have to use something a little bit smarter.
How we started? We started, as I said, from the end to start, starting to find true problems and then go backwards and find true solutions. Because as I said, the citizens were listening about smart, but they couldn't see something very smart in their daily life. That's why we started with the CRM, and they saw that they called the city hall. There was someone who answered. It's a great success for Greece for the beginning. Then they saw that the problem was solved, and the tremendous change for their life was that somebody was calling back and they said, "Are you satisfied with the services?" They thought that it was a joke. They was close to the phone. Yes, that was the beginning. That was the first experience. This is back, let's say, 8 years now for our city. So yes, we started using technology in our daily life. For example, that's what George said. And now we're changing our pipelines because they're very old. They count more than 40 years. They are from asphalt is amiantos, and now we have to change them. But it is a huge loss of energy because we lose almost 40% of the water that we are pumping. Yes, what that means as far as energy terms and consumption. So yes, we're in a very good point now. The crucial now is to integrate all these services through the 7 million project that we managed to get from RRF in Greece.
Yeah, like how, I think I am not going to answer the question of how did we started, because Ken has been working on this during more than 30 years, but he's one of the pioneers in the idea of smart cities and walkable cities. But I think the idea is how can we start together to have a more human scale city? Because I think exactly, Dimitris, that's exactly what you are. This morning you were telling me, listen, it's not about the technology, it's about the people, and how can we put the people in the center? So for doing that, the first thing is that we need to have unlikely partners working together. So that means people that we don't like, we have to talk with them and we have to work with them, because if not, we are screwed. I'm so sorry, but that's it. So the group, the first thing that does is like find a mayor that is like you, innovative, but also a mayor that can talk with other people and align the industry, the government, and the academia and the citizens in order to work together. So I think that's the most important thing, because I was talking this morning about mutualism, and I think this is the point. So we have to work with unlikely partners in a mutualistic way. What that means? Okay, we usually say, like today, the global economy is working perfectly because it's based on a big fish is eating a small fish, and that's how nature works, isn't it? No, nature is like that, but it's not true. That's predation, and that's only 5% of nature. 90% of nature is based on mutualism. So you have the bird that has modified the beak in order to get inside of the flower, and the flower has changed the shape of the flower in order to let the bird gets into the flower, so it can be pollinized and the animal can eat. Okay, so that's the win-win situation. But really, the flower don't care that much about the animal, and the animal doesn't care that much about the flower. But they found this kind of mutualistic way of sharing, and that's the core part of the cities. And actually, is the core element of humankind. We should work together, even if we don't like the other, just because it actually is good for us. Let's find this mutualistic, this positive, selfish way of working together. And I think that's the beginning. And I think today we have to start finding these beginnings, because seriously, we are running out of time, but there is hope. We can do a lot of things together. And I am very happy of being here, because I think the things that you are doing, they are a good example of working together and like changing the places. So that's my opinion.
There was a pipe burst in Lowell last week. Yeah, so Mayor Chow just shared that with us. So, so to that point, I guess one of the next questions, and maybe more so for you, George and Luis, with all these stakeholders. So, your presentation is very compelling, but all that's going on in my mind is not only getting a mayor, and not all mayors are created equal, right? But all these different stakeholders that have to be bought in. And so, to your point, working together and trying to figure out ways where everyone can engage. What has your experience thus far been working with cities, municipalities? That's a very different type of stakeholder. They have a monopoly, right? They decide whether they want to do business with you. And curious, George, your thoughts and perceptions and experience. And Luis, what's the engagement with the city of Cambridge look like for Kendall Square, and their willingness to collaborate and work towards a goal of 2030 when you start looking at some of the potential implications? Sounds like a lofty goal.
Yeah, thank you. So for any of you, if you are interested in working with municipalities and haven't yet, this is what we learned. Municipalities are hard to get into because they are monopolistic, and you have to create that trust, especially if you haven't been around, if you're not a large company like Siemens and others. It's a little bit harder to get in. But once you get in, you're typically in for a long time. So what does that mean for an entrepreneur? Well, it means when you're looking for investment, to be upfront with your investors that this is going to take a while. It's not like a typical startup or a B2C or even a B2B startup that will ramp up right away. It takes time to get in. But once you get in, you enjoy very low churn. And we're very proud that we have zero churn. We've been around for 5 years, went to market nearly 4 years ago, and we don't have one municipality that left. Certainly there is value in the product, but also the natural type of the customer churn is very low. So I'd say that's one of the biggest takeaways. And the second one, get ready with procurement. Procurement takes a while because they might love you, love your product, but then they have to go to tender, or you have to find ways to sole source and so on and so forth.
Years to run a tender.
Well, yeah, I think it's a great question. Actually, the good thing is that we don't look into majors or like clients. We have, it's more like a collaboration. So we have collaborations in more than 10 cities in 5 continents. And the idea is we always have sister labs because it doesn't, I mean, the experts are the people from the city, it's not MIT. So it doesn't make sense to have MIT going into a place and say, hey, this is what you need. No. Actually, we build collaborations and we find together what is the challenge of the city. And we build sister labs where we can transfer technology and knowledge. So that means that we have to align a good measure that helps with the policies and to have impact, but also you need to have the industry. So you have then the financial muscle, let's say. You need the citizens to agree with the, with the plan that you want to have, and the academia helping with the research and innovation. So it's kind of like a multi-level collaboration. And that's why it's usually it takes 2 years to build these kind of collaborations. And of course, and I think like in Spain we say en casa de herrero cuchillo de palo. That means nobody is kind of like in my own house. My parents will never trust me. So Cambridge is great. We love Cambridge, but we use it as a playground just because MIT is here. We have to make an effort to approach the city of Cambridge. We should, okay, but sometimes we get lazy and we have projects in East Palo Alto, Washington, so maybe we should approach the city of, we okay, I love it. So yeah, I don't know.
The technology is collecting a tremendous amount of data, right? And sensors and we live in a world now, especially where people are very sensitive regarding trust and safety. We have an entire department here committed to trust and safety and how information is used and shared. And even our customers really want to know who has access to what at any given time. What's your experience been with your constituents and the residents and the citizens and the businesses in terms of some of this technology and how it's the type of data it's collecting and how it's being used?
Look, Kostas, in Greece, the main data are owned by the state. The main databases that contains much details about our inhabitants, but for sure, we collect a lot of anonymous data. For example, as far as the traffic of the city. About 2 months back, we start establishing parking seats where we have to pay, and through camera anonymous data, we can count for how many time a car is parking, the speed. For example, we saw something very interesting, Luis, that after starting this system of paying for parking, we saw mitigation of traffic jam about 30% because there was a lot of local traffic jam trying to find park. Now in Greece, yes, I'm not so sure that the people of Trikala are afraid of their data because the municipality does not own a lot of data. And we have to make them trust us, trying to solve daily problems. For example, civil protection is something that through sensors can help us. As I told you, despite the fact that we are living this century, about 5 years back, I saw 2 villages of my municipality have more than a meter of water because Pinios River had a big flood. What we had to do back in 2016 was to ring the bells because there was no warning system. Now we have in Greece 112 to warn them, but it was just like seeing a movie of World War II to ring the bells of the churches because it was late at night. This is crucial for us now to use data, to use sensors, to use technology to make people see that something is changing in their daily life and use those data to live safer.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to try to get us back a little bit on track. I think I'll thank our panelists and then hand it back to Marina so that the team.
Do you want to see if anyone has any questions?
Sure. Right here.
My name is actually I'm a lawyer. Can you tell owns the mayor owns network like Trikala. Wireless, fiber-based kind of a system.
So the question, I'll just repeat the question, is around the network in Trikala and infrastructure on the network and who owns it.
As a lawyer, I'm an electrical engineer, so I will respond to terms of technology. Look, for a very weird reason, the first network of fiber optics was paid by the Ministry of Economics of Greece back in 2006, and still it is the Ministry of Economics of Greece that owns it. For a strange reason, we are obliged to pay to repair it. For sure, yes, it's totally strange. Of course, we use it, but we are not the only institutes that use the fiber optics network of the city. It's also the hospitals, the education, the whole system of the state that use it. But based on that network, we also built a very wide wireless network all over the city, about 150 access points around the city. And the late 2 years, we also established the LoRaWAN network for some neighborhoods, for taking measurements from water meters and something like that. So it's a mixed situation, and we are the ones that are obliged to repair and pay for them. Yes. In Greece, yes. Something like that, but for sure there is a wider network that owns by telecommunication companies like OTE, or they also built their own network, and those are the ones that gives fiber to the home or consumer services. But there is a national network that belongs to us in a way, or is being paid by us, to be correct.
This is absolutely wonderful. Basically, I'm just so proud of Trikala, and I'm so proud of Greece, the future, designing the future. It's so inspiring. My question is about the economics of sort of how do you balance that in a market society? How do you create the right economic incentives, and sort of where do you put sort of penalties, benefits, short-term bonds, investment versus long-term repayment, perhaps or economic health or what is the combination of that you are currently using? Also, both broadly for the panel to comment on sort of what the US society.
Let's start telling you that most of our applications were being made by pilot European funding programs, research programs. Driverless bus, now the YAPE robots. All of those projects are horizon projects that the European Union use for research purposes. So we didn't have to pay something, and we couldn't pay something. Unfortunately, in Greece, there is no law for municipal bonds. I was starting searching and trying to change the law, but still it's not possible for us to produce municipal bonds. The first time that we see such a huge amount of money, it's now through RRF. The first 17 Greek municipalities, Trikala is one of them, are now open to get about 90 million euros from RRF to build now integrated services through this funding way. And there are two new tools. The one is called Antonis Tritsis, it's a national program that has been funded by European Investment Bank, and also from ESPA and SRF in Europe, where about 500 million euros are now ready to run, especially for digital investment, digital solutions in Greece. But it needs time. I said before, when George was saying about public tender, that from the moment that you have, let's say, a great idea, till the moment that you will have the company to build Voda.ai, for example, you need about 2 or 3 years to make the study, run the public tender, wait the judge, because always there are problems between the companies. So it needs time. This is a problem for us in Greece.
Something, no, but yeah, no, I think this morning we were talking also, like, when you ask for changing the legislation for autonomous vehicles, we are, so I think you should talk a little bit how difficult it is sometimes, like, it's not the technology, it's sometimes just changing the legislation for.
I was telling to Luis that, okay, it was very nice to see the autonomous buses commuting around the city, but there was a very simple problem about the law. Who is responsible for them? And that's a problem that we have to solve it through the municipality of transportation of Greece. In the beginning, the minister was saying, yes, but if you put those buses, the taxi drivers will have problems, they will do the job or something like that. But finally, we found a solution as a pilot program. We had to establish let's say, control room with an energy button where they could stop the buses in case of emergency, in case of problems. So Greece was the first country around Europe that had the first law about autonomous driving. Yes, sometimes we find solutions, but we have to try hard to make it happen.
We'll take one more question.
Kostas is originated from my village, Pili, near Trikala. Yes, Kostas, we have exactly the perfect size of a city to be test bed for such projects, because we are not, let's say, a house like Athens, where there are 62 municipalities, one close to the other. It is very easy to pass the messages to our people, because there is just a city with 2 newspapers, 4 radio stations, 10 websites. So it's very easy to see and to inform people about what we're going to do, and see very easily and very fast the impact of our trials. So yes, when you have to test something, don't go to very big cities. It's very difficult to change the way of thinking, to change daily mentality of people. Our city was a very nice place, the perfect size, and also there must be a team, a local authority that still believes that they can change the way of thinking of their people, if they have, let's say, the power not to follow policies, very easy policies. Sometimes you have to think that sometimes I will lose some votes, but I have to do it.
Thank you so much to everybody for joining us on this panel.
Eva Ados will be moderating. The 3 startups can come up.
I'm first.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Michael Janis. Most of you should know him.
I just
have
go.
3 minutes,
Okay, 3
actually.
minutes. Okay, I'm not going to make it in 3 minutes. First of all, it's great to see everybody here. We've spent way too much time on Zoom. I want to end this so I can walk around and talk to all the people I haven't seen for so long. So I'm here today as a board member at a company called Yodivo. It's a startup in Greece. I've been involved for about 4 years. I made a small personal investment and I'm on the board of directors. And what we're going to focus on today is one aspect of the company's business, which is a software platform for facility management to enable energy efficiency and also better management of physical assets. And I realized after the conversation that the amazing presentation by Luis, which I thought was just A++, we need to start measuring things in terms of CO2 saved as opposed to anything else, because that's a really cool way of looking at things. What I did here is grab 2 screenshots of actual instances of the product in use. So on the left is a campus of a bunch of buildings that Yodivo is managing through a service provider, and various charts that this particular client has decided to be looking at. Up on the left is a energy consumption. Down on the left is year-over-year comparisons. On the right is a bunch of reporting that particular customer was interested in, KPIs. Sometimes it's compliance with ISO standards or other ESG requirements. So the tagline that we like to talk about in the company is going from IoT, total asset management, all the way from an IoT sensor to KPI reporting and compliance management. Next slide, please. So a lot of people do that. We're not the only company in the world that does that by any stretch. One of the things that we really bring to bear that we think distinguishes the company somewhat is the heritage of the company is deep in edge computing and IoT sensors. This is a snapshot of, again, of another drill down of a screenshot, which is a specific area in one of those buildings from the previous slide. And it's focused on the HVAC system. And what this does is allow the client to see various sensors that are measuring things, and then other places where things are being controlled. So ultimately, you can both see what's happening, monitor it, and then potentially control it. We have some patents around both the use of IoT sensors, gateways, and the cloud, and how you best navigate that world, and also how you demonstrate it in sort of easy to use ways for the customer. A little snapshot of some of the metrics for the company. It's about 35 people, mostly in Greece. This 2.2 million in revenue is a combination of different things. We will spread out into areas, including even hardware sales sometimes, or services. Of this revenue, about 10% right now is an ARR that is directly associated with this particular piece of software. The reason I'm focusing on this today is we think this is a real area for growth, and it's an area we think we can hopefully connect here. Last slide. I know I'm over my time. So we're looking for people to expand. Our typical customer is a service provider, someone like Engie or Veolia or ISS, who takes our platform and offers a service to their customer and adds the value that they can add to the customer through the use of this platform. We've raised some money to date, 1.7 million. We're not looking to raise money right now. We think we might want to towards the end of next year, again, really to expand the presence in the existing market and future markets. So if anyone's interested in learning more about us, if anyone has anything, knowledge of people at service providers or consulting companies that you guys think might be interested in what we do, I'll be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. So we now have 2 minutes for Q&A. Any questions?
Okay.
Yes. Questions?
Find me later.
Well, I have a question. Okay.
Does your software plug into?
Yes.
Also plug into
Yeah. So I'll caveat. Sorry. Oh, does the software plug in to traditional systems? And the answer is I'm not entirely sure. Again, I'm a board member, so I'm not actually active at and I live here. The main reason I'm here is because I'm here, but I know who can answer the question. So that's almost as good as answering the question. But I will say that anything that's smart in a building, we can connect to. And then we've got a lot of experience connecting to various building information systems, SAP or other HR, pretty much anything that has software interfaceable things. We've got experience doing that. We're I think currently managing a couple hundred buildings, mostly in Europe. So most of the activities in Europe.
So you mentioned that about 10% of your revenue comes from ARR, which is great. Given that ARR gives you much better multiples. Have you considered at the board level focusing more on that eventually, and maybe bringing down a little bit the hardware and other sales that the multiples aren't as attractive?
Thank you. So this area, the IoT, I don't know how many of you have been in this area. This company's been around for about 6-7 years now, and actually was a spinoff out of another company that had a large team involved in edge computing and development of technologies around sensors. It's a really difficult place to make money still. So yes, at the board level, I would love to see a 100% focus on subscription services and ARR types of revenue, but you also have to be involved in your industry and learning what's going on. So what we've done as a company, and I think it's a smart thing to do, is be as opportunistic as we can while trying to stay on track, trying not to go too far afield of what we can do, because sometimes, you know, opportunities will come up that really have nothing to do. A lot of small companies face this, have really nothing to do what you're doing, but someone wants to pay you a lot of money. What do? Right? You don't do that necessarily, but maybe, you know, it's kind of hard not to. You got to hire people and grow and all this. So there's been some of that. I think Yodivo has done a good job of staying away from things that are too far afield, but there have been times when there's opportunities where there's collateral benefits to doing something that's a service or that's a hardware development, with the hope that it leverages itself into the ultimate goal, which is software.
So, okay. So George, he flew in from London to present Mobito to us. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, thank you for the invite. Great pleasure to be here and a great pleasure to interact with this network. I am George Kambanis. I'm founder and CEO at Mobito. And what we do at Mobito is we operate a mobility data marketplace. So it's a B2B data marketplace. And you might ask, why do we do that? Well, a lot of the services that we heard today, a lot of the mobility services of the future are really dependent on accessing good quality data to fuel them. The good part of the equation is that there's a lot of rich and a lot of new availability of that data. If you look at some of the biggest transformation in the mobility space, connected vehicle data, the electric charging infrastructure, as well as phones themselves, this is producing very, very valuable data. However, and actually this data is adding up to a very sizable new market, the market of transacting on mobility data, companies paying to access third-party data and vice versa, companies monetizing their own data. However, we have experienced and we know that companies are really struggling in this process. They're struggling on the whole process of interacting and exchanging data with one another. And this is holding a lot back of this creativity and innovation and solutions. So that's where Mobito steps in. We have developed our own data exchange management platform that provides a full stack of functionalities for data owners to be able to control who accesses what part of their data. And on the other hand, we're working with some of the biggest mobility stakeholders and helping them to access third-party data. And we're taking care of the whole journey from discovery to evaluation to integrating and even to processing third-party data. We have been doing that and been focusing on the mobility data space. We have close to 100 companies, more than 100 companies today signed up to the platform. This includes some of the most important stakeholders like automotive OEMs, telco companies, road concessionaries, and even insurance companies. And we're helping them access third-party data and derive intelligence from that. And besides that, we have developed our own derivative data product. We're going closer to the data intelligence part, where we have a commercial real estate optimization solution, which is used in Belgium from 13 stations and malls in selecting what are the best stores to integrate and as their commercial mix in order to optimize their revenue. Most of the team is in Greece, and we have up till now raised $1 million euros, which allowed us to build up a team of close to 10 very talented people in the data space and having mobility expertise. Today, we're actually building up to a seed round of 1.5 million, and we're doing a convertible round as we speak. And super keen to be here, very happy to expand the network to the US. And specifically, we are keen to connect with companies from the automotive OEM, tier 1 space, ICT companies, companies that are working on simulations and on twin cities. We really like those use cases. And of course, connect with other people that want to be part of the company in one way or another. Thank you very much, and great pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Any questions? I have one. So how do you gather the data and who are your most important partners right now?
Thank you. That's a great question to give a little bit more context on the use cases perhaps. But today we have 18 distinct data categories. It's a B2B marketplace. So behind all of these 18 categories, we have data partners, businesses that are integrating their own data into the platform. And the three biggest data categories today where we have the most traction and we're very excited about is connected vehicle data, data from the automotive OEMs, but also tier one companies, telco, so mobile phone location data, and the third, the dynamic information of how people are charging the vehicles, dynamic charging information, which is very much needed and wanted by different stakeholders today. Thank you for the question.
Any other questions?
So you say that if I was understanding, you do business to business. Once that you get the data and you cook the data, et cetera, you do business to business. So what is kind of like the output of this kind of service that you provide?
Yeah, thanks for this question. So if you think of the two sides, the easier part to explain is the suppliers. They give their data, we do the data business for them, and they get to monetize their data, they get revenue out of this. But more interestingly is in the consumption side, there on the primary level, we work with data mature companies that want raw data. So the output is actually getting the data and the format, the quantity, the locations, the frequencies they need. But we're also working with less data mature companies where we're more involved in the processing part and then really preparing the data to give them the insights that they want. And in that case, we have developed our first derivative data product, which is this commercial real estate optimization use case that I mentioned, where the recommendation is actually if you're a mall or if you're a station, should you include a Starbucks or a pharmacy into your store, into your station in order to maximize revenue? Thank you for the question.
Any other questions? Okay, we move to the next one. So Verlin also flew in to present to us today. Thank you so much.
I didn't fly in from so far away. You can hear based on my accent and based on my name and based on just looking at me if I said nothing that I'm not Greek, right? I'll claim to be Viking. That's what I'm mostly, is Viking, not Greek. I'm here to represent Ariadne. I just joined the company a month ago. I've spent the last 30 years of my career in technology solutions for large enterprises, mostly around retail and retail adjacent industries. So that's my expertise. What I brought to Ariadne was not only the industry expertise, but also having been in several startups that are a little like some of the other ones you've heard, startups that are focused on software, SaaS-based, but have a hardware element. And I'll talk a little bit about how we treat our hardware element a little different than most other companies would do. I'm giving you an eye chart here. This is real data from real clients showing something that's critically important. And the mayor identified this. Everything that we do is about the people. It's about the humans. It's about making our lives better, longer, more rich, more fulfilling. Everything that Ariadne does is about understanding where people are, where they move, how they move, where they go next, where they came from, and the impact that that has on other systems. That could be in a retail shopping mall. In other words, I go to the Gap store. Which store did I come from before that? Which store am I going to next? Which stores am I going to walk by? And what does that mean commercially for all of the other businesses around me? And then monetizing that data for the mall operator or the retail chain owner or the airport or the train operator or the city. Tracking all of these people. How do we do this? We do it by using the thing that you forget the least often. I forget my wallet all the time. I forget my car keys all the time. I never forget my phone. What we're doing is sensing the core signals from the phone. It can be in airplane mode, and in many phone cases, it can be turned off, and we can still sense the signals. We sense that with a very small hardware device called a surveyor. Our customers pay for the software and we give them the hardware for free. Free in quotes, right? The software charge pays for the hardware. No one buys hardware. We are not a hardware company. We're a software SaaS ARR company, and that's it. That's part of the value that I bring, is because I came from companies that took that same approach. Next chart, please. A little bit about the company. The global market for this kind of information and data is going to be $50 billion or 50 billion euro. Surprising how those two are so close together right now, in the next couple of years. So a massive marketplace. We have the next generation technology. Lots of people have tracked people using cameras, using sensors, using laser beams. All of those have issues with accuracy and real-time capability. We've addressed those with the technology that we have that's also patented. Patented in terms of the way we gather the signals, and patented in terms of the algorithms that are used to provide the real-time location down to a 30-centimeter location for every individual that's measured. And then lastly, GDPR, the four-letter swear word that many Americans think about. Most companies in this space have gone to their lawyers and asked, are we GDPR compliant? Are we privacy compliant? And they find a way to work with their lawyers to get the lawyer to say yes. This company, Greek founded, but located in Munich, Germany, took a very German approach. They actually went to the GDPR authority in Germany, the strictest in the world, and said, come evaluate our software, audit our software, you tell us where it's not GDPR compliant so we can fix it. And that's what they did. And they have a letter from the GDPR authority saying you're the only software company in this space that's GDPR certified. Lots of stats, great customers, including 5 cities that are live today with Ariadne, 20 more to be implemented, a number of malls, a number of retailers. San Diego Airport is implementing us today. We just were on an installation call this morning. We've raised about $10 million so far. We just closed the post-seed round literally a month ago, so we're not raising money right now, but we expect that we'll need to do a true Series A here in the next year or two to continue to scale and grow the company. What we're really interested in is in business development. I was hired to build the business in the Americas. And so any connections we can make to airports, cities, mall operators, retailers that you may be able to help with, we would love to have that kind of conversation. That's it. Any questions? Yeah.
So as responsible for the US market, what are the biggest differences between the European market and the US market in terms of adoption?
First difference is scale. So our largest client today is IKEA. Anyone know how many stores IKEA has worldwide? It's about 200. Okay. 200 stores is considered a small retailer in the US. The company I was at previously, Theatra, we dealt with tier 1 retailers. Our smallest customer was 200 stores. Our largest customer was Walgreens, 9,500 stores. It's scale. Along with scale means you're asking for a lot more money, right? If we're asking a client in Europe for 100,000 a year, 200,000 euro a year, in the US, we're going to be asking for 2 to 3 million a year in SaaS fees. And so even more important to have that compelling business case. Yes. Perfect. The question was about consent on how we're sensing data. Number one, we don't need consent to sense a signal that exists already if we're not personalizing that signal. So we're gathering the signal, but it's anonymous from the beginning and it's aggregated from the beginning. So there is no way to identify the specific individual if we're just gathering the signal. On the flip side, we're the only technology that also allows you to interact back with the person that we've sensed if you have consent. So in an airport, San Diego, they have a Wi-Fi network. When you join the Wi-Fi network, in the print there, it asks, do you consent to have us interact with you? And you say yes. Now, when Ariadne senses you walking past the Starbucks, it can send you an offer for a free coffee or a free cake to go along with your coffee. Or they sent you walking past the Starbucks and it could be the Brooks Brothers store down the way that sends the offer instead. So with that consent, we're then allowed to interact with the individual consumer. That was critical in the GDPR evaluation. Yes. Question is, does VPN affect our software? The answer is no, not at all. In fact, the infrastructure required to install this solution is one thing: electricity. Once we plug the devices in, they actually network to each other through a mesh technology and don't require networking to anything else. SIM card is in one of the devices and transmits independent of any other infrastructure in the facility. Any other questions? If so, grab me afterwards. Would love to talk about it.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you to our amazing speakers and the great presentations, and love those pitches. Please make sure to connect with someone who you don't know tonight, and let's continue to build these bridges. Thank you so much for coming.